All right, welcome back again. Today I'd like to look at another series of tools that will allow us to manipulate an image. This one's really commonly used in industry, especially the fashion industry and modeling industry, for changing and tweaking the shapes of something or somebody in this case. Now, there's a lot of ethical implications for this tool, but I want to show you how it works so you can decide and see how much alterations are actually out there in the images that you are looking at every day. This is not a tool down the side in our regular toolbar. It's actually what we call a filter. And we're going to look at a lot of filters in the days coming forward, but this one is a really special filter called the Liquify filter. So I'm going to go under the filter menu and choose Liquify, and up will come a whole suite, essentially. This is almost like another program that's worked together with a whole set of other tools and a bunch of stuff over here we'll have a look at. So I want to run quickly through the tools just to show you kind of the basics of how they work, and then see how we might want to use that, or how someone would use this in a magazine or a photo cover here. Um, the most popular by far of these subset of tools is what we call the forward warp tool. And essentially what Liquify does is turns your photo into like liquid paint. And the forward warp tool is kind of a little bit like finger painting. So essentially, now I'm going to change up some settings here. There we go, so we can do a little more dramatic. But you can see as I pull through the paint here, we can push through and kind of smear that paint as if it's liquid. And you can go very dramatic to create abstract things, or you can do tiny little subtle bits, which is mostly how we're going to be doing that. There's also over here a little restore all, which brings me back to my original one. Now on the right hand side here, you've got several different options. One is the brush size for that. So if you do a thin little brush, you're going to have a thin little effect. And if you do a big brush, that's a bit too big, big brush here, you're going to push a lot of paint and have a little more subtle in the image itself effect as far as distortion, but you're going to be able to push and move around a lot more. Pressure is kind of how much of an effect that has. So if you have a low pressure, you're going to notice little subtle changes. You're going to have to make lots of clicks. And that's really one of the key ideas here with the brush tool, is try and do it subtly for most things, because you're going to really notice it if you put a lot of pressure on. But you can do lots of pressure and you're going to really push and move in one go. Restore that back. Density is kind of a setting that you can tweak about how much towards the edge of your image of your brush that effect's going to have. So low density you can see there versus a high density you can see there. So the high density, the edge of the brush has much more of an effect than the middle of the brush, whereas low density, the edge of the brush doesn't really have a huge effect. It's kind of like more of a pinpoint with a softening on the edge. Yeah. So the next one here, and this is a really great one here, quite often you're going to make too many mistakes or change an area that you didn't plan on changing. So we have another tool here called the Reconstruct tool. This basically paints back to the original. So you can, if you overdid a particular area, you can paint it back. You also have all the brush settings there for that. And of course, the most dramatic is that Restore All brings it right back to the beginning. Next up, the Smooth tool. This is a really handy one. At first glance, if you look at this, it may seem like it's actually the Reconstruct tool. So for instance, here, if I've pushed her cheek way in like so, I can grab this Restore tool, sorry, Smooth tool, and I'm going to make a slightly bigger brush here. And essentially what it does is, often when you make lots of little changes, you're going to get these weird bumps that might look good zoomed out, but when you zoom in, you see a bit of detail, you realize that doesn't look good at all. It's a lot of bumps in it. Obviously it looks faked. So the smooth tool kind of just allows you to paint that, and it kind of smooths out the highs and the lows. Now, you can see that it's not fully the restore tool, um, because, or the reconstruct tool, because I've painted now kind of to the maximum there. And if I click on this other cool reconstruct button here, it gives us a little slider kind of as a window into time. So we can actually zoom back to the beginning of our reconstruction and go to where we are now. So you can see that smooth tool is not fully going back, but it's kind of taking all the bumps and the peaks out of things. So really common as you're doing lots of little subtle changes to not get that smoothness, and that smooth tool can help you with that. Let's go back to the beginning there. We have a bunch of other fun little ones here. We've got the twirl tool. Ooh, let me just hold that there. You'll see this spins the paint around in a clockwise direction. If you hold down the Alt key and do the same, it goes in the opposite direction. This is fun for twisting things, but can be used for like turning clothing or turning a smile or something like that to make somebody look a little bit different. We have another two tools here, the pucker and the bloat tool. This pulls all of the paint towards the center of the brush. You get that like pucker lemony tool, and the bloat tool pushes it away, so you can kind of do a little inflating there and bumping things up like so. The push left tool and then also holding down Alt will do the push right tool. Kind of moves things in a block rather than pulling them along behind, it pushes them out of the way. So it can also be used to kind of shift large amounts of either skin or clothing to reshape things like so. We have a freeze mask tool. This is a really, really handy one when you've got a particular area you want to work with, and then you want to make sure you leave everything else alone. So let's say I wanted to, use some of the rest of the Liquify options on her nose, but I wanted to make sure that the eyes weren't affected and her mouth wasn't affected. So I can do what's called a freeze mask tool. And so I can paint this mask, this red area around. And now you'll notice as I alter, the red area is kind of locked off. It means you can't change it so that I can make a dramatic change in one area without affecting anything else. And then you've got the thaw mask tool, which is just erasing that freeze mask later on if you wanted to do that. I'm going to restore all here. The next one is kind of a smart one, and it just shows you how frequently this is used. I think I missed some file there. There we go. For modifying people in industry, and so much that they've dedicated a tool to this. And this basically is kind of a smart object or smart filter idea that it's gone through and it's analyzed and figure out that there's some faces here and that there's some certain areas of the face. So it knows where the eyes are, where the nose is, where the mouth is, where the whole overall face is, where it thinks that these are at least. And it allows me to kind of like alter these. So in this case, I can narrow the face, or I can make the eyes bigger just by grabbing them. I can also rotate the eyes, change the bulge there. I can change the smile, make the smile wider. I can even make her smile a bit more. All done here in the face tool, but also you'll see that there is a face aware liquify setting that appears down here. It knows that there's two faces, so I am currently on face 1, and that is this face over here on the right. And you can see these are actually sliders that you could tweak, so I can play with the eye size there using this, or the height, and change the height of the left and the right eye. I can also link these together so that they both move. I can change the distance between the eyes here. So it's a lot of really digital cosmetic surgery almost here, right? We can make her smile less or more, and change the chin and the jawline and do whatever we like to reshape this human being. And then you can pick between the different faces as you want, and then change the other person as well just to adjust that. So kind of spooky, and there's some ethical implications here, definitely, that we want to look at. But now I can't do the reconstruction for some reason. Let's go to my reconstruct brush and see if I can go back. No, I guess that sliders have all applied themselves. So I'm just going to go back and do the filter again without applying that. There we go. So and we've also got a hand tool, allows us to pan around. Well, there's the zoom brush, and then the pan tool allows you to get in very closely to kind of do little adjustments if you like. So with that, we've got a whole host of tools that you've played with. Now, what would I do? Well, in an image like this, as a magazine editor or something like that, I may go in and say, oh, this is going to be my cover of the magazine. I want to tweak a few things. And, for right or for wrong, these are what people do. So the first thing I'd look at is these are kids, some cute kids here. And we are, as human beings, predisposed to kind of be attracted to things with big eyes. So I'm going to use the bloat tool here, just subtly. And that's one of the keys to all of these Liquify filters is subtle changes. So I've just made her eyes pop out a little bit bigger. This is why we like anime and baby animals and things like that. They have big eyes, so we're attracted to that. And so I might use the bloat tool for that. I may use, and very often we actually reshape bodies a little bit. So I may pull her chin in a little like this. And just keep that level low, like the pressure, well, here it's quite high actually, but say 20 or something like that. 10 to 20 or so is a great one so that you're not going to obviously make too many changes. Now, couple options here. I might say, oh, you know what? I'd like her to smile a bit more. She's not smiling very much in this image, so I could just grab the corners of her mouth and kind of pull them up using that forward warp tool. If I want, I could also use that face aware and just say, you know what? I'd like you to smile a bit more. And I can use any combination of the two. You can see with that smile, the corners of her mouth aren't turned up, so I may go for a little twirl, make that a bit smaller and make that pressure a little bit lower. Then hold down Alt and do the other one. Doesn't look quite realistic, looks like a little bit of a bump there, so I may grab that smooth tool that we worked with earlier and say, you know what, I'd like to smooth that out a little bit more. I don't think I was happy with it. There, other person on the right here. Now there's some legitimate ones too. I can see that there's some sun shining in this person's eye. So she's squinting a little bit on the right eye and not the left eye. So that's just something that is a feature of bad lighting in photography. So I might want to just slightly bulge that eye out a little bit so it doesn't look like she's squinting as much. Also, I get some lighting issues with her nose, makes the nose look very, very wide. And I might want to say, you know what, let's just, well, we could do that with a pixel shift. As pushing there, I'm going to undo that one and hold down Alt, and that would push the nose in. But now you notice you're going to adjust, unfortunately, the mouth. So I may go and use my freeze mask tool to just say, let's make sure I'm not adjusting anything I don't want to. Paint around here and just play with the nose. And so I'm going to just bring her nose in a little bit. Like so. Maybe that was a bit dramatic. Let's drop the pressure down. Remember, subtle, slight changes are way better than giant ones. Like so. And then I can thaw all of that. mouth smile looks a little wide, so I might go, drop that down a bit. And I could just bring in her mouth a bit. And maybe even bring it up like so. And you can play around how you see fit. Now, the interesting part is see with some subtle changes there, you can see that we've actually made a fair bit of a change in all those tiny little subtle changes. And I would probably want to grab um, some tools, some filler in there, or I've got my background copy. So you can see there's my before and my after, just quick, but keeping in mind that you can do a lot of things and people do, and that a lot of images out there are not real. They've all been touched up a little bit. And at a quick glance, looking at that, I wouldn't notice that there's a problem, other than I think I would redo that corner of the mouth there. But there is your Liquify tool. Can be used for altering some clothing. Sometimes clothing is hanging the wrong way. Sometimes adding some volume to hair and shifting things around a little bit to reshape an image if you're going to try and blend two images together. Or it is used a lot in the fashion industry to make people thinner in spots where they want to be thinner and bigger in spots where they want to be bigger. So just be aware that that is a tool out there that is available and is used really commonly.